I'm questionable, I'm short, and I'm stupid. You're listening to Tumalip, the podcast. We're back. Tumalip and Friends podcast, but it's just me. And we are doing this live as the NHL entry draft first round is going on, as the Washington Capitals have just selected Ilya Samsonov. And, well, let's get to a full rundown first. We knew that coming in, I was going to be having a problem with the podcast because of my schedule. So, with that said, that's why I had to cancel the first edition. But, it's back. And this time it is called Tumalip, the podcast. And it's basically just me saying whatever I want for the next 20 or 30 minutes or so forth. So, what I'm watching right now, I can describe it to you, is that Ilya Samsonov, the goaltender that just got selected by Washington Capitals, he's walking out to the stand. And this is what I like about the NHL draft. What I like about the draft is that the players go up, they're immediately introduced to the coaches and the front office, and even the kid is up there. A kid is up there holding the 15 jersey for Samsonov, who is standing up there for the Washington Capitals. And so it looks like he will be the third string goaltender. He may end up being sent back because some of these picks will be sent back to their minor leagues, their major hockey leagues, or minor hockey leagues. So if I can give you descriptions so far, the first pick, of course, is Connor McDavid. And Jack Eichel went second. Dylan Strome went third to the Coyotes. The second pick was held by I can't remember what the second pick was held by. I'll have to look for that. The fourth pick, of course, Noah Hanifin, the defenseman from Boston College, went to the Carolina Hurricanes as expected. So, with that said, let's get into the draft. You know, for months now, we've been hyping Connor McDavid. Have we? First of all, when you hype a player and he gets selected by a team that has royally screwed itself into oblivion the last 6 or 7 years with selecting just horrendous number one overall picks. I mean, Nail Yakupov, what the heck? What the heck was that? I mean, is he just another Russian player that just likes to taunt people? And Taylor Hall, not really getting it done. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, not really getting it done either. So I think the pressure right now is on Mac T. Of course, Mac T, I'm talking about Craig McTavish, the Oilers GM, to really bring these people, bring the players all together and make it work. I found the second pick, by the way. It went to the Buffalo Sabres, who are just really horrible. But I think the Connor McDavid pick fills a lot of needs for the Edmonton Oilers. He's got great speed, he's got great hands, he can skate, and he can also play with other people. I mean, you put him on the kid line, it's brilliant. But of course, there's the curse of being the number one overall pick. We've seen in recent years the number one overall picks in the NHL draft really don't know how to control themselves, and it's kind of really frustrating, and it's really irritating. But this could be a different story because number one, like I said before, McDavid is a very good skater. And number two, this fills a lot of needs for the Edmonton Oilers because it influences teamwork. I mean, you know, now it looks like that Edmonton may be able to come out of the show. I think the next thing I was going to get to was the first one that went to the Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres, what is going on? I mean, like, they just, spent themselves into oblivion. They've just gone into oblivion the last few years. I mean, they've lost their franchise goaltender in Ryan Miller. They've given up a lot of their draft picks. They've fired 3 coaches. And they've also fired 2 general managers. I think this is the year where we figure out if the Sabres are down or they're in. Because, first of all, the Sabres used to be the class of the Eastern Conference back in the early aughts. 2006-07, they ran all the way to the Eastern Conference Final only to lose to Ottawa Senators, right? Eh? Am I right? But this is going to be different. You have a team that has finished in the basement of the National Hockey League for the last 6 years. They have had a complete fall from grace. It doesn't look like they're going to get back. And they don't look like a team. They look all over the place, so disorganized. And I think this is the point where if you're Tim Murray, the general manager, you step in and you make this work. And I think that pick right there for Jack Eichel, the local boy from Boston, he is really going to help. Then we get to the case of it looks like they're going to announce another pick here for the Vancouver Canucks. Gary Bettman's welcoming Trevor Linden and GM Jem Benning into the stand. You can see here, I think I like this draft better because you don't have a lot of people that you know here, and you get to see people, kids develop under the tutelage of people like Jim Benning and Jim Nill in Dallas, and even Terry Murray in Buffalo. So I think it'll be good for these teams that have high lottery picks for them to have. We have the pick. Well, it looks like they just went straight to it for the Vancouver Canucks. But of course, now that's not a very good sign for Vancouver. This team went to the Stanley Cup Final in 2011, and they went to the Stanley Cup Final just 4 years earlier, and now they've had a complete fall from grace. They've been eliminated in the first round three of the last 4 years. They missed the playoffs once, and if this really is the sign of things to come, I don't think that's really going to help Vancouver in the long run. Tumalip, the podcast here you're listening to here on the YouTube's channel. I'm watching we're watching CFL football now, but I want to get to another point. The NBA Finals just finished up, and the Stanley Cup Final finished up as well. A good deserved win to the Warriors. The Cavaliers did it very well as well. No disgrace in defeat. And what else was I going to say? The Stanley Cup Final, well deserved to Chicago. Good on for Tampa Bay. This will really help for their confidence down the road. But the one thing I want to get to is last night at the NBA draft, where Kristaps Porzingis was selected 4th overall by the New York Knicks. Now, I know that Knicks fans are frustrated. I get it. I get Knicks fans are frustrated, but you're going to have to wait. Phil Jackson didn't just come over to Chicago and just take over the team and take them to the finals in one night. He didn't do it overnight. It's going to be a process. It's going to take a while. It's going to be painful. But now we're hearing that Carmelo Anthony's not buying in. Dan Le Batard said it on Highly Questionable this morning. Excuse me. Carmelo Anthony is not buying into Phil Jackson. This guy is nicknamed the Zen Master for a reason. But I understand Knicks fans are frustrated, and I understand he's frustrated, but you have to buy into what he's saying. Kristaps Porzingis is 7'1". He's got a 7'6" wingspan. How can you argue with a player like that? That's like perfection, if you ask me. The Celtics were supposed to draft someone like Sam Decker. The mock draft also said Sam Decker. They went and got Terry Rozier last night, eh? So if you're... I'm a Celtics fan, okay? I'm a Celtics fan. I bought into the process that it was going to take a while. It was probably going to be a few years before the Celtics made it back to the playoffs. And I was stunned to find out that they made the playoffs this year. Even though they got swept by Cleveland, I was extremely proud of their effort, and I don't think there was anything to be ashamed about. But then you look at the Knicks, okay? They made the playoffs 2 years ago. Of course, the Celtics gave them a run for their money, and then they got eliminated next round. But then they had a complete fall from grace. Mike D'Antoni left. J.R. Smith gets traded. Iman Shumpert gets traded. And then all the Knicks fans keep saying, oh, well, we're not going back to the playoffs for some time because of this Phil Jackson guy. Who's this Derek Fisher guy? Hello! You guys bought into the account that Phil Jackson was going to take you to the playoffs in the first year? The first year, I might add, is very difficult. Brad Stevens went 26-56 last year. He goes 40-42. He goes whiteboard style, draw it up, get these guys going, and he takes them to the playoffs? Are you kidding me? That's unbelievable. And it's even more unbelievable because, first of all, the Knicks have every right to be frustrated. I know I've repeated this several times. I get that, but you have to understand it's going to be a process and it's going to be frustrating. I know the Knicks fans want to win now, but it's going to take some time and it's going to be a long road before the Knicks can even be thought about for playoff contenders again. And then I want to get to, so that's enough of that, because the NBA really is the class of the class, okay? And they had even one instance, I believe it was Mark Tatum. Now I won't get into that, and it's a little personal on the personal side, so we'll leave that out. And now we get into the part of the program. So the Stanley Cup Final finished up a couple of weeks ago, and so I want to get my take on this. How is it not possible that Tampa Bay eliminated the Rangers, who were literally one good play away from the Stanley Cup Final, and now it looks like Tampa Bay is not getting any help over the top? I mean, how does that not happen? We'll figure that out sooner or later. That wasn't very good anyway. That was kind of confusing. So let's get to the FIFA Women's World Cup. Good old football at last. And this will be what we're talking about today, mainly on the program. I'm just talking about stuff that I know. So just bear with me here. It's gonna be a long podcast. You're gonna hear me talking a lot, so it's gonna be a process, but you're gonna have to deal with it. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. So it was good old football. It was a good month for the U.S. soccer team. First of all, they get the comeback win versus Netherlands in Netherlands, and then they come back and get the victory over number 1 Germany in Germany for the first time ever. And then the U.S. women just advanced to the semifinals. If you're listening on the Saturday, they advanced yesterday. The final scoreline there: China 0, USA 1. Carly Lloyd scored the only goal in the 51st minute of play today for the USA, and they have advanced. But unfortunately, I don't know if this is going to advance soccer any further. Now, let me be known, I'm a huge soccer fan. I love football, but it seems I like all the European teams, but it seems to me that soccer's still not catching on. And yes, there's ISO here in America. There's a couple of camps everywhere, so I think soccer's starting to grow, but it's going to take a little bit more time, because the first thing we get about it is that we love football. I mean, we're a family that loves European football, and it's frustrating to sometimes that the U.S. doesn't get the quality victories that they do. But first of all, speaking of quality victories, the U.S. women, have they had trouble scoring lately? Because firstly, they won 3-1 over Australia, quite handedly, I might add. 3-1. Yes, Lisa Davania got the leveling goal 27th minute, but the U.S. got 2 quick goals in succession from Kristen Press and Megan Rapinoe. Rapinoe, of course, was suspended today because she accumulated so many yellow cards that they had to throw her in a jail. They had to throw her in an airtight jail cell in Lansdowne Stadium in Ottawa. But I think that's the only problem with the game of the United States, because they don't get enough goals, they don't get enough help offensively, and when they do, they're depending on their defense to do it. Somewhere down the road, the U.S. defense is going to have to rely on the offense to score goals, because that's how you win World Cups. But of course, the U.S. defense has shut opponents out for over 400 minutes now, and I think that's quite astonishing. But when you look at it in the big picture, how did the U.S. win the 1999 World Cup? How did the U.S. win the 91 World Cup? How did they lose in the 2007, 2003, 95, and 2011 World Cups? They didn't get offense at the right time. So I think that'll be key for the U.S. down the stretch of this World Cup. They're playing the semifinal versus Germany on Tuesday, and I think that'll be a great turning point. Oh my goodness, excuse me. For the nation in football. So I think that's kind of the opposition that the U.S. faces, is trying to get enough offense and gain enough momentum that that they can beat their opponents handedly. So turning back to the NHL draft, the big trade of the day came from Boston and Los Angeles. Los Angeles, of course, finishing out of the playoffs for the 6th time in the last 12 years. Just a season removed from the Stanley Cup. They were the first team to get eliminated after regular season to try and defend a Stanley Cup title. So they will try to come back next year. And should we just call it? Because this is really what I'm going to get to. The Western Conference. First of all, the Western Conference has dominated the hockey in the NHL. I think it's just good enough that we just say every year. I think it's good enough we just say every year, every odd-numbered year, the Blackhawks win, and every even-numbered year, the Kings win. Because that's how it seemed to go. You mean you had 2010. That was the only even year where the Blackhawks won. 2012, Kings win. 2013, Blackhawks win. 2014, Kings win. 2015, Blackhawks win. I think we should just keep with that trend. Have the Kings win every even-numbered year, and have every Blackhawks team win an odd-numbered year. Should we just keep it that way? It's kind of that feeling to me. But of course, it comes down to rule changes. And there were big rule changes this week. First of all, 3-on-3 overtime. Now, I'm a huge fan of overtime, okay? It's the most dramatic way to end the hockey game. Now, of course, with me and being a Rangers fan, it's pestilence because it's like, but when you go to a shootout, the penalty shootout, where you have one shooter take a puck from the center ice line, skate it on the goalie, and shoot it, and try to score, it's pestilence. It's just pestilence. It's a hell of a way to end the game because how in the hell do you just have an unguarded breakaway? Because it's just not hockey. It just doesn't suit hockey. And I think it's good for the NHL. They went to 3-on-3 because if you see some of the videos online, 3-on-3 hockey really opens up the ice instead of 4-on-4. And of course, if you have a power play, then you have to add an extra man onto the ice for a 4-on-3 or 5-on-3 power play. So I think it's a good thing for the game to change to 3-on-3 overtime so we can get more games ending in sudden death overtime in 5 minutes and not have to go to a shootout. Because I said, it's pestilence. And then the instant replay. And this is the one I really like. If you can, the coach's challenge, you can overturn goals by goaltender interference. Now, this makes me really upset because why wasn't this instituted earlier in my life as a hockey fan? Why wasn't it? Well, I can tell you two things. One, it kind of screwed the Rangers in Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final last year. Because Dwight King absolutely ran over Henrik Lundqvist, and he did not get an interference call. How in the hell it happened, I do not know. And then you had the instance back in Ottawa in 2012, where Henrik Lundqvist was interfered with by Nick Foligno, but he got shoved into by his own player. That's where I think we need coach's challenge. And then, in one instance last year, between a game between the Dallas Stars and the Vancouver Canucks, I was watching up there in Whistler. I went back and forth on Twitter with well-known comedian Brent Butt from BC, of course, a big Canucks fan, Canucks diehard, in fact. And I tweeted him that, Trevor Daley was holding on to a defender and ended up pushing him down to the ice. And the goal was scored, and Daley was accidentally I didn't describe this, but Daley put this defender into his own goaltender, causing the puck to go in, and the next thing you know, a penalty is called because of Daley's inadvertent shove into the ground of the defender, which caused the goal to go in, causing the goalie to quote-unquote not do his job by the laws of the game, which means it was an interference penalty, no goal. And I went back and forth with Butt on Twitter, and I told him that's a bad call because he was holding on to him, and he says, correct. That's where instant replay needs to be imported. It's put there, and I think that's the right play for the NHL to do. But the last big story we had this week was the Arizona Coyote debacle this week. I mean, the Arizona Coyotes are a great team, but I think, they're just an expansion team of what should be the Winnipeg Jets, who are picking right now the NHL entry draft. I can see Coach Paul Maurice going up there. Some of the front office managers going up there right now for the Winnipeg Jets. So I would say that The big story this week was the Arizona Coyotes debacle. First of all, the city of Glendale is stupid. I don't mean to say that out loud, but the city of Glendale is stupid for doing this. They're taking away their hockey team by terminating this deal. Why in the hell did you move to Arizona in the first place then if you knew that 16 years in you were going to get your butts kicked by the city council and probably be moved to somewhere else? Why would you go to all that trouble just to do that? Why? Because, number one, they wanted the money. They want the money. Hello! With all the play they're doing lately, they don't got no money. Take a look at Florida. The freaking BB&T Center is half full. Not even half full. It's only barely even a quarter full. They got 7,000 in Florida. 7,000. That's unacceptable. And then you got the Coyotes. I watched the Rangers game back in February at the Coyotes Arena. It looked like a freaking Rangers home game. And now you got so many people inside the BB&T Center and you still won't move the team. Wake up, Gary Bettman. Wake up, NHL. Move the freaking Florida Panthers and the Arizona Coyotes somewhere else so they can have success. I keep saying it on Twitter all the time. Move the Panthers back to Quebec and move the freaking Coyotes back to Seattle. It's over. It's done. Those two teams are toast. If they cannot get something going in the next 5 or 10 years, and it's ridiculous that the NHL has let this go on for this long. It's unbelievably disgusting. You're listening to Tumalip the podcast on the YouTubes. Episode 1's gone really well, I think, today. Hilarious tweet by Taylor Hall. He just said, don't mess up everything we built the last 5 years. And guess what, Taylor? It's over. It's done already, okay? McTavish, I mean, seriously, Mac T, no offense to you. You're a great general manager. You gotta get a coach that understands your players. It's the only way the system's ever going to work in the city of Edmonton, because they're starving for a championship. That team has not won a championship since the Gretzky days. And I think that's the only problem they have left. They have to find that player that puts this team together and then brings home the Stanley Cup. I think they can. Okay? I believe they can. All these teams that are in the lottery, like the Sabres, the Hurricanes, Jackets, Jets. Oh, not the Jets. Jets aren't in the lottery. The Sabres, the Canes, the Jackets. They can all bring home the Stanley Cup, but they are missing that one piece. That one piece that will bring them together, and I think that'll work. The last thing I want to get to before we wrap it up is the scandal that is taking place at FIFA. For years, I've said FIFA is the most corrupt franchise in the world, and I'll say why. Number one, their president gives the World Cups to unbelievably hostile places. But, he redeems himself by making it a bigger thing than it really is, and he ends up making it better, which I think might happen. But you're telling me that money laundering and leading to the arrest of 13 FIFA officials by feds in the vicinity of the FBI and the Swiss really are going to turn this around? I think it's the right thing for FIFA that they get this clean house beginning and that they actually get going with the rebuilding process. I'm sorry if I'm going all over the place here, but it's actually just for the comedic purposes that I'm only doing this for one. I'm going all over the place for one topic because I want to get a kind of feel for what the sports month has been like, and I don't think we've given it enough credit. And I think the sports month of June, when we look back on it, is going to be one of the most epic we've had, and I cannot wait for July. I think that's it for this podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Tumalip, Tumalip16 on Twitter. On Instagram at the Tumalip16. And I don't think we'll have a Twitter account for this podcast, but we'll try to have one in the future. So it looks like the NHL draft's first round is going to be wrapping up here in a little bit. That means this podcast is over, and let's give you a week in sports preview going on this weekend. Wednesday, we know there's going to be a lot of baseball this weekend. We know that for sure. But Saturday, you're going to want to tune in because the NHL draft rounds 2 through 7 are on NHL Network. And the quarterfinals of the FIFA Women's World Cup are on Fox Sports 1 tomorrow starting at 3 Eastern. That's 10 a.m. Hawaii time. And you can also catch the semifinals of the FIFA Women's World Cup starting with USA Germany Tuesday 6 Eastern on your local Fox stations. And of course, the CFL is on TSN on ESPN2 as well. Just check your local listings for the channel in your area it will be on. You can also get it on the Watch ESPN app. You can also get it on the new ESPN app. And we'll have more as this season unfolds.